grew up in Florida, Daytona Beach area, went to school at the University of South Florida. So lived in St. Petersburg for 8 or 9 years. Met my wife, who's from St. Pete, and she joined the Army. So since 2014, we've been going to different spots. Our first place together was Guam. We lived on Guam for 3 years, which was amazing. Second place was North Carolina, where we had a nice big yard. So I spent a lot of time out there. And then now we're in Colorado in a townhome. I'm sure we'll get to it, but there's not a lot of grass in a townhome. And the grass that we do have is either taken care of by the homeowners association or it's fake turf in the backyard. So don't really get to do much of that. But always grew up loving doing the lawn. Something about just like being able to see the progress that you're making is one of those, like, I don't know, like instant gratification type deals. I worked for a landscaping company in college. I guess I had a big yard in North Carolina, so I'd always been doing grass. And then get to Colorado, and I have like a good weed eater, a good mower, a good blower, and have no opportunity to use it. So I think I connected with you all while I was in North Carolina, and there really wasn't anything within an hour's drive, maybe one or two places in like 45 minutes drive, just because we were kind of away from the urban centers. So Colorado Springs, a little bit more activity out there. Hobbies, anything. I'm an adrenaline junkie. So in Colorado, it's been snowboarding and hiking and running and dealing with injuries. In Guam, it was paddleboarding and playing ultimate frisbee and play a lot of softball, really any kind of team sports. I know when I worked for the landscaping company and I'd have like these late nights, I would have loved to be able to evoke Storm's power so I can have a day off with rain. Anytime it was raining, I was like, yes. And then, of course, paycheck comes and you don't have any money. But probably the Flash, is that the fast guy? I love the idea of just holding a weed eater and just taking care of the perimeter in just a couple of seconds. Weed eating is probably my favorite. But if you don't have the neck strap, your arm gets all sore and numb. So being able to like zip around, and I think edging with the weed eater is awesome too. And being able to just edge an entire landscape in a second or two would be legitimate. I grew up with a single mom who struggled with a lot of, just her whole life was a struggle, whether it was emotional or substance use. She always found time to help whether we were like in the grocery store and an old lady, like her food stamps wouldn't, check out. She would cover that, and she didn't have any money, but she would still cover the bill somehow. And she'd see somebody waiting at a bus stop in the rain and she'd pick up a stranger. Like those types of things when I was growing up, it was really interesting because part of me was like, Mom, we don't have any money. How are you doing this? Why are you doing this for them? And as you get older, you realize like those little acts of kindness, not only do they potentially change somebody's entire day, it could be longer, but it fills you with so much gratitude. And so just like it's kind of scratching an itch when I'm mowing a lawn and seeing every stripe along getting better and better every step of the way, being able to do that for other people that can't do it or don't have the ability or can't afford it. It's just a win-win. I get to scratch my itch and I get to help somebody else out. Spend so much time trying to figure out a career that's going to be meaningful, and a planner for a county in Colorado. In theory, it's a rewarding career. You get to help guide the development of a region, but there's the actual like fulfillment that you feel inside is kind of few and far between. When you're just looking at a computer screen and we spend so much time trying to figure out what kind of career is going to be meaningful and fulfilling. But then fulfillment is just right around the corner, helping your neighbor out, mow the lawn, bring you out sweet tea, and they're so grateful, and you could see it in their eyes. They have a great looking lawn right next to you. So I do try and take advantage of those little opportunities to kind of just insert fulfillment into my day-to-day just through service. It's obviously I don't get to mow as many people's lawns as my schedule would permit, or as my equipment would permit. But anytime I can take a little bit of time out of my day or action to help somebody. Of course, you go into it thinking you're going to help somebody and they might not be as thankful or grateful, and it kind of backfires. But at the end of the day, you still try and you still help. And their reaction is not as important as the fact that you got it done. Whether or not they recognize, how helpful you were, you still were. But vast majority of the time, one of the lawns I did in Colorado Springs, the daughter came out and I didn't get to speak to the owner, and she was trying so hard to like give me support and help, and when I told her I didn't need any help, like she she was so relieved that she didn't have to get out there and get sweaty and do something that she wasn't comfortable with or really know how to operate. Just seeing that genuine appreciation will outweigh any other situation where folks might not be at least able to communicate the gratitude. It is really a time management thing for me. I haven't actually taken any volunteer opportunities since I went down to 4 days a week, 10-hour days. But that opens up my entire Monday to potentially helping folks out. But before a couple months ago, just working the regular full-time job, I don't have any kids or anything, so I can't say that my home life is extremely busy. And so the only opportunity I have is on the weekends. And with my wife's busy schedule, we always, and we know we're not in Colorado for too long, so we try and jam pack our weekends with like little mini excursions and going and exploring. That's probably been my biggest impediment. But I have been able to talk with our code enforcement folks. I work with the county, which in land planning, community development, which also includes code enforcement. And I have brought it up in enough meetings to where when people are in code enforcement violations, they will ask me if this organization is something that can help. And sometimes what I'll do when I've done this at least once is instead of just sending them to your organization, which is probably not good because we want to have the traffic and the requests and the requests satisfied to have the number count up, I'll just go out there and take care of it, just kind of circumventing the system, which I know it's not ideal from an organizational standpoint, but I kind of think your organization, in a lot of ways, a lot of times with the nonprofits, the long-term goal is to make the organization or the entity irrelevant, to create a culture and community of connectedness to where if I know there's 5 people in any given month that can't take care of their lawn, let me just go ahead and do it, and if all the people that can't take care of their landscaping have a couple people within their neighborhood or within close proximity that they can rely on to help out, these types of organizations eventually, and obviously this would require the volunteerism to really catch on, and for there to be a network of committed and persistent volunteers that have connections and contact info for the folks in need. I would love to see a little bit more of a legitimate connection with our county's code enforcement office. So anytime somebody with landscaping has a landscaping violation, we can send them 3 different options. Hey, you can sign up for I Want to Mow Your Lawn. Here's a couple cheap and affordable landscaping companies, or you can whatever else the other option might be. I had this vision when I was in my neighborhood association back in St. Pete of having a kind of like a shareable tool library where it could have been just like a 10 by 20 shed or something, and folks could go and check out lawn equipment. I mean, I'm going to use a ladder once every 2 months. Why do all 5 of my neighbors have to own a 12-foot ladder? So if we had some sort of culture of sharing and service, and I think that's the ultimate goal for at least a kind of a neighborhood standpoint.
To your point about the tool library, actually, we submitted an app to AARP with hopes to actually establish one as like, if it gets approved, use that as like a case study to expand to other locations and have like official shacks all over on behalf of the organizations. I think I remember chatting with you over email, like others also, like the idea of actually being officially listed as a resource on these warning notices.
The tool library thing too, one of the benefits there is we have, at least in some towns, when you have a very active neighborhood association culture, these neighborhood associations are looking for community building projects and responsibilities and things to manage. And if we had some sort of like funding mechanism where, we could match a neighborhood association's donation to establish a tool library or a share shed or whatever you want to call it, they're hungry for these types of leadership opportunities. Give 2 old folks a key to a shed and have them be in charge of the inventory and the check in and check out. And now they've got something to look forward to that is making a difference too. So I think that's a really cool idea that you guys have. So it was interesting because I remember the purpose of the organization was for the elderly or the infirmed or veterans or disabled veterans, or folks that couldn't afford it or folks that just couldn't do it. That's who we were out to support. So I went to this really nice house in Colorado Springs. The lawn was like manicured, and I thought somebody had already done it. And so I knocked on the door and I was like, hey, I was supposed to come and help with the lawn. And the wife answered and said, oh, I just don't want my husband to do it anymore. He does it too much. And we wanted to find other people that could help mow the lawn. And you could see like areas near the light pole and areas near the garden bed where it was a little long. So if I looked closely, I knew that it wasn't recently cut. It's just in Colorado, so the grass doesn't grow that much. And so I was like, when was the last time this was cut? And she said like a week or two ago, and he did it. And it gets too hot. And so I was like, okay, I'll do it. And they had their own equipment. So the gentleman came out, showed me how to use his electric lawnmower and basically mowed the first half of his front yard for me while he was showing it to me. And I was kind of like thinking, you have the ability to do it. And it's not like I have a list of houses that are waiting for me to show up. It would have been different. You know, this was the first one in a long time, if not the first one. So he certainly had the capability. He ended up watching me the entire time, like following me into the backyard, into the side yard. Like there was probably not 5% of the time that I was unsupervised using his equipment. I'm not sure if it was an equipment thing or what, or he just was particular about his lawn. What areas he wanted me to go over again. It was just one of those weird, like even if he was paying me to do it, I would have been like, bro, you know, like relax a little bit, man. And then when I was leaving, he said, "Oh, can you come back next week?" Or maybe he said, "So can we do it twice a month?" And I had to be honest. I was like, "I'm not sure of my availability. You know, reach out to the website, kind of thing." So it wasn't ideal. But then a couple weeks later, maybe a month later or so, I had this older family where I met the daughter, and their entire yard was overgrown, and I accidentally broke my pull string on my lawnmower as I was trying to get it started for this house. Luckily, I have a good steel weed eater, and so the lawnmower is not going to work. And I just weed eated the whole thing. And that's probably the one you have pictures of. It was like knee high grass, and they were thankful. They brought me out water 2 or 3 times. They were watching, but they were like, "How's he?" You know, there was almost like they were watching because it must have looked weird for me using a weed eater for the whole yard. But you could just see the gratitude in their eyes, and so that one was, you know, I'll take. And that one was hard. You know, I was holding the weed eater for 3 hours, maybe more, sweating. But I'll take, you know, I'll do 3 of the older gentlemen who watched me cut if I can have one of those experiences, just because the before and after was great. The family was thankful, and I like weed eating.
Appreciate that feedback, brutally honest. And I recall, learning from that as well. We made some improvements since that time. Most people that reach out to us are in need and are good people, don't want to take advantage. We've launched our expectations of service language, manage those expectations regarding who we help and how often we can help. And I'm thankful that you were available to give it another try on that next pass that turned out to be a more favorable, desirable experience.
It was exactly what that second time was exactly what I thought the organization was doing. Somebody that was in need, and I think they even had a code enforcement violation too. So in need in more ways than one, you know, financially, physically, and now the city was coming down on them. So yeah, that I got a glimpse of the power of the organization with that lawn for sure.
So we have some other things now, like in terms of like our intake, trying to score the leads accordingly. We can determine who is the most in need.
Because my wife's in the military, and it looks like we're going to be moving to Germany in July, unless there's an international branch. But I might have to take a 2-year hiatus while we go to our next stop. So definitely don't exhaust any resources trying to get me a mower.
We do have Germany actually as the option on our intake.
Try it and see how it makes you feel. Like I said earlier, we spend so much time and effort trying to search for fulfillment in our jobs and our day-to-day lives. Doing something that's physical, that requires energy, that is going to make you sweat, but that also is going to change somebody's couple weeks, month, however long it takes for the grass to grow back. Wait to see how it feels. It feels great. Just shout out to you for grinding it out. It cannot be easy trying to create a system that does not really have any sort of, it's not based in any sort of marketplace, you know, relying on the goodwill and energy and availability of others to help other folks in need. Just shout out to you. I love how it started from something that you just did out of the goodness of your heart. And then you're like, you know what? There's only one of me, but there's tons of people in need. I wonder if there are a couple other folks around the country that are like me, that have an interest in cutting grass, that have the ability to do it, and that like serving folks in need. So definitely shout out to you. I've seen, you know, the organization grow and the tribulations just kind of from being on the email list. From my point of view, I'm excited to get back to a house with a yard. it is one of my weekly or biweekly kind of meditative experiences, just getting out there and whether I have headphones in or not. As we become more virtual and digital, future generations are just not going to be outside, and they're not going to really embrace the value and just the feeling of the sun. Getting the farmer's tan while you're sweating and breathing in grass shavings. Like I don't know, there's just something special about it. It probably takes a weirdo to like that feeling, but I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully I can help in Germany. I know there is one outstanding request in Colorado Springs that I'm sort of aware of that is in a county code enforcement violation. I'd like to get out there and check that one off the list before we move. We won't be moving till July, so I'll have plenty of time to do that, and maybe I can check a couple off before between then and now.